is Ross Noble here, and I'm on this show right now.
Hi, it's Rochelle Hughes.
Hi, I'm Astro. And I'm Alex from UB40.
Hello, it's Amanda Holden here.
Thursday breakfast on Source FM with Benjamin Makin. Yeehaw! Well, good morning, people. Thank you very much indeed for joining me today on your Thursday morning science and celebrity breakfast show here on Source FM with your host, Ben Makin. Sorry to disappoint you. I'm still here. You still haven't got me kicked out. I told you all you need to do to get that accomplished is just send a bunch of complaints off. I'm sure we'll get us booted out of the studio in no time, and I won't be able to wind you up anymore, Rod Stewart. I mean, come on. If any of you are actually wound up by Rod Stewart, then that's not possible, is it? Fantastic. Get your requests to me as I'm presenting. I'll be delighted to hear from you. You can pop me an email if you like on bam206@exeter.ac.uk. You can text me on 07860 670 917. Grab some of my contact details off the Source FM website if you want. Whatever, just get your requests to me and I'll get them on the show for you. But who have we got joining us today? Because I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Ben, you said this was a science and celebrity breakfast show, so where are my celebs? Well, just you wait. I think you can be quite excited about this show, okay? So I'm delighted to have a number of very special guests. Now, my first guest, okay, she's the ITV breakfast presenter on Good Morning Britain, and she also runs a show on Smooth Radio in the mid-morning in the weekdays. So a proper DJ. Yeah, we've got a proper DJ on the show today. Really excited about this. Kate Garraway, absolutely delighted to have Kate. Today, Kate is joined as well by Dr. Sarah Jarvis. She's got an MBE. She's a GP in London. She's the health and medical reporter for The One Show. This is quite an impressive list already, isn't it? She's got quite a few things under her belt, Dr. Sarah Jarvis. She's pretty impressive. She's a regular guest on the Jeremy Vine Show as well, and she's the clinical consultant for health website Patient UK. We also have Professor Nick Reed. Nick is the head of mobility research and development at Bosch. He's talking about autonomous vehicles today. This is exciting, a really cool technology. He's chatting alongside Daniel Ruiz. Daniel is the chief executive of Meridian, which essentially is this organisation created by government and industry to focus on key areas of UK capabilities in the global connected and autonomous vehicle sector. Bit of a mouthful, that. Maybe they should come up with something a bit, more snappy, but whatever. They're smart guys. I'm sure they know what they're doing. Really cool to have them on the show as well. We're going to chat about autonomous vehicles with those chaps. Fantastic. They've got a cheeky song request as well. Of course they have. Everyone does. They always do. I force them to have it. No, never mind. Now we also have Scarlett Moffatt on the show as well. I'm delighted about this. Scarlett, TV star, known for appearing on the Channel 4 programme Gogglebox, and she won I'm a Celebrity 2016. We've got a Queen of the Jungle in the studio. How amazing is that? We're going to get her on this morning. I hope you're looking forward to that. It's pretty amazing. She's also a writer. She's got a series of books out, including Scarlett Says, and I like the title of this one, actually, Autobiography, My Life. So far, so good. Pretty good, yeah? Cool. All right, it's time to get kicked off then, and I would love now to invite my first guest for this morning, and that is the fabulous breakfast presenter on Good Morning Britain. I've already told you who this is. It's Kate Garraway. I'm delighted to have Kate with us. Smooth radio DJ as well. Can't forget that part. Alongside Dr. Sarah Jarvis, MBE. Now today, Sarah and Kate have joined up, actually, a campaign jointly put on by DrinkAware and Public Health England, encouraging us to have drink-free days. They're stressing concerns about risks between lots of drinks in the week and particular cancers, unfortunately. So, Kate and Sarah, I'm delighted to have you with us now. I'm just going to warn you, this is the kind of thing that does happen as well. So it's not all going to be too dry for you. I mean, this happens.
We are in this studio being thoroughly bouncy.
So if you're not excited now, I don't know what's going to get you excited. But you know what? I'm just going to get it straight on for you. Hope you enjoy. Now, please do stay with me.
Thursday breakfast on Source FM.
Hello, Ben. Good morning.
Excellent. Good morning to you both. Well, thank you very much for this. It's great to have you both. And I must say, we've got not only a doctor, but also a real radio presenter and TV presenter as well, obviously, but a real radio presenter as well. So that's pretty cool.
Well, I don't know about that. I think you're the real radio presenter.
Definitely
We've got
not.
Sarah Jarvis, who's a radio presenter too. So it's like a little family. There's two yes.
Well, I'm afraid
I'll run us over with radio presenters.
Well, I'm definitely the amateur among us. That's all I'm going to say for now.
I'm not sure that's true.
Oh, I know it is. And Kate, are you okay? I mean, I know there was a bit of a scare. Are you feeling okay with the?
Yeah, I am. Although,
Good.
funny enough, I just started coughing now. But yeah, no, I just had a virus. So, yeah, it's been a bit of an adventure. Mind you, there's a lot of bugs about, aren't there, at the moment?
Straight back to work quickly, though, Kate. I mean, you're on the radio today as well.
I wasn't on the radio today, actually, because I'm here talking to you. Look at that.
Well, that's
but
fantastic.
no,
Very
I
kind
wasn't
of
on
you.
the radio. I'm not on the radio today. I was just on Good Morning Britain this morning.
Oh, well, you're on Source, so maybe that's nearly there. Source FM. Not quite, but yeah. No.
You're in Falmouth, aren't you?
That's correct. Yes. Beautiful,
lovely
beautiful
part of
spot.
the
I don't know
world.
if you're a fan of the area.
Very lucky.
We were down in Cornwall about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it was absolutely stunning.
I know.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Oh,
But it's
well,
a very long way away.
well, you're both always very welcome here. You know that. And there's a pub round the corner. This probably shouldn't be saying this. I mean, the whole point is not to be drinking. But if you want to go and have a soft drink, that's what our listeners should be doing. There's a great pub round the corner called the Pandora. I don't know if you went to that, but that's nice. It's got its own
Was
pub
it
too.
alcohol-free beer?
Yes, very true. You know what? Alcohol-free beer is actually really nice as well. There's
Oh,
no
it's
point
really
knocking
good.
it.
My husband is a great fan.
Yeah.
He's a bit of an aficionado, I say.
Well,
no.
chatting about the campaign today, ladies, I think this is super worthwhile to hopefully get the listeners all aware about this. And of course, we're talking about trying to cut down on alcohol, of course, in partnership with Drink Aware and Public Health England. But I don't think that this is probably something which a lot of people haven't, made this association before in terms of thinking about breast cancer awareness as well.
So it's actually amazing to me that women don't think about the risk factors. We know that breast cancer is the most common cancer in the UK. We know over 55,000 women a year are diagnosed in the UK. That means a 1 in 8 chance of being diagnosed during your lifetime. And while there are lots of risk factors that you can't do anything about, you can categorically do something about your alcohol. And we estimate that 1 in 13 cases of breast cancer is down to drinking alcohol.
Gosh,
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think people tend to associate alcohol with... We know that alcohol, isn't like eating an organic apple.
yes.
We know that it's probably not great for us, but
Yes.
we think it's not... there's an obvious connection between smoking and cancer in lungs. We think of alcohol and we think of connections with the liver. There will be problems there. But I was surprised, Sarah wouldn't be because she's a proper doctor, but I was really surprised to know that 1 in 13 of those cases, the evidence suggests is caused by alcohol. I mean, that is a lot, and that is like 1 in 13 cases that if you cut down a little bit and have your drink 3 days, you can take those odds out of the loop, can't you?
Yes. No, I think that's a really good thing for people to be aware of, isn't it? That actually, if you are regularly drinking more than the, that risk, that allowed, amount to increase your risk, if you do that, then of course there are going to be risks like this. And it's probably, something that everyone really needs to stop and have a think about, I suppose.
So the Chief Medical Officer says the low-risk guidelines are that it's safest for men and women not to have more than 14 units in a week. And interestingly, one of the reasons that the guidelines have changed is precisely because, as Kate so rightly says, we used to think, or the public, I think, tends to think about your liver because perhaps that's the thing they're most aware of. And certainly if you have a very high alcohol intake, then you associate it maybe with people who go yellow and their stomach swells up and
Yes.
all the rest of it. But actually, where alcohol is concerned for breast cancer, there is no lower limit. So in fact, the more you drink, the greater the risk.
What I like about this campaign as well is that I actually gave up alcohol completely in January, which was more daunting than I thought it would be, actually, because I don't think I drink particularly very much. But what it did reveal to me is that actually a lot of the drinks we do are very habitual. So you think, have a drink because the bottle's open in the fridge, or because your friend has suggested it, or because someone said to you, have a glass of wine, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And actually, by cutting it out completely, I realised that an awful lot of the drinks I have are not drinks I particularly want to need. And so I kind of feel like having, 2 or 3, several drink-free days a week is a manageable way to reduce those risks without thinking, I've got to give up drink altogether, I
Yes.
can't have drink,
It's actually really interesting because when we asked people, how would you cut down? What would be the least difficult, the least challenging way for you to cut down your alcohol? A lot of them said, it's much easier for me to drink no alcohol than it is
Yes.
for me to drink less alcohol. So if you're drinking, say, every day and reducing it, that's quite tough for some people. whereas most people said having a few more drink-free days every year is something that I can manage. Now, obviously, what we can't suggest or we can't recommend to people, or indeed that we suggest they have to avoid it, is that you can't make up for the fact that you're drinking less on one, not drinking on one day by drinking more on the other days.
That's a flow. That is a flow. But funny enough, I found actually that the good thing about having several drink-free days is you enjoy the small amount of drink you do have. Because A, it goes to your head more quickly because you haven't had a drink. And so actually you find yourself drinking less almost without realising it. The other thing is about you saying, Sarah, about the 14 units. I think what a lot of people don't realise is that isn't 14 glasses of wine.
Oh, no. Oh,
I mean,
extraordinary.
It's
the great thing about the www.drinkfreedays.co.uk is they've got an alcohol calculator on there. I have lost count. You're so right. Oh, it's a glass of wine. It's a unit. No, it's not. Oh, it's a pint of beer. It's 2 units. Well, not if it's an extra strong one. It could be twice that much. So actually, you really need to be looking not just at how much you're drinking, but how strong the alcohol is, because a lot of the beers these days are really strong. And the other thing is that people automatically assume I'm having a gin and tonic, so it's 1 gin, so it's 1 unit. Well, if you ask people to measure out a single unit at home without an alcohol measure, on average, they'll measure about 3 units.
Dad's the worst. He's a very sensible man, but
I think
for a drink, I've got no idea.
He's
got no
very
thing in his Get him more of Bacardi and Coke, and he's got no idea. So I think that's what's quite good. That if you have, like, say, I'm picking it, Monday to Thursday or something, or Tuesday to Thursday, you don't have, many drinks.
Yeah.
Then when you do have that 1 glass of wine, you're going to be under the limit for the next few days. So it does make it a little bit easier to cut it out. And also, you have got the bonus of feeling quite fresh the next day.
That's always a good plus. That's a plus as well,
good.
isn't it?
It's really interesting you say that, because, of course, people think about, well, why do I need to worry? We've all got to die of something. And, A, that's not what you're going to feel when it's happened to you.
Yes,
but B, it's amazing how quickly, because a lot of people go, oh, I have a drink at night because it helps me get to sleep. Actually, it may help you get off to sleep, but the quality of the sleep you have is so much worse because it interrupts that REM pattern, that rapid eye movement pattern. So even though you may have slept for the same number of hours, you won't be as refreshed, and you'll be grumpy, and your mouth will taste like the bottom of a parrot's cage, and you'll be irritable, and you won't be able to concentrate. So I'm amazed when my patients come in. One of the things I always say to them is, if you're going to give up alcohol, then concentrate on how it makes you feel, because actually giving up for 1 month and using that as a license to drink more for the rest of the year is not going to help you, whereas giving up for a month and saying, wow, this is a different world.
Yes.
I don't need alcohol. I think it's fantastic.
Which I think, yes. So I would say, have 2 or 3 days a week where you don't drink, and you will feel fresher. And then actually so you're not spoiling your fun if you want to have a drink at another point as well along the way. So, and your skin looks better.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I know that, maybe Ben's not as worried about that as I am. He sounds very young and bouncy, but when you get to my age, having a bouncy skin, you suddenly really notice it, yeah.
We are in this studio being thoroughly bouncy.
Well, thanks so much, ladies. I appreciate all your time today. I'll let you go. Thank you.
Pleasure.
All right, thanks
Bye
very
now.
much indeed. Thank you.
Well, thanks again to Kate Garraway and Dr. Sarah Jarvis. Now, can I just remind you of one little part of that interview, actually? Here we go.
are in this studio being thoroughly bouncy.
How amazing is that? I'm gonna use that a lot. So thanks to Kate and Sarah for chatting to us about that new campaign, the Public Health England and Drink Awares campaign, encouraging everybody to have drink-free days every week. Of course, if you are worried, please do get in touch with your GP or call the NHS helpline. Now, coming up next, you know what? I think it's about time that we had Scarlett Moffatt on the show, don't you? We probably should, shouldn't we? Tell you what, I'm going to get her on straight away. Straight after this, I'm going to play some music. Is that all right with you? Hope it is. Today, we're chatting about bonfire nights. In association with Richmond Foods, they're trying to give you the chance to win the ultimate bonfire night. Pretty cool, okay? Well, I'll tell you what. Let's just get Scarlett straight on, shall we? Hope you enjoy this, guys. Hello, Scarlett. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, hey, Ben, you all right?
Hello, yeah, fine, thanks. How you doing today?
Yeah, I'm really good, Tar.
Nice. Well, thanks for chatting to me on Source. Really appreciate this.
Oh, no, thank you.
Well, I wonder, Scarlett, if, first of all, because obviously I was just hoping you could say your name, basically, so I can just, shout about you being on the show. Is that all right?
I am Scarlett Moffatt, and I will be on Source FM talking about sausages with Ben.
Oh, yes, that's perfect. Thank you very much, Scarlett. That is fantastic. And you know what? It's an honour to have the Queen of the Jungle on the show with us. Just going to put that out there.
Thanks. I mean, I'm not technically the Queen now.
Oh, well, you will always be the Queen in my book, though, Scarlett.
Oh, thank you, Ben, thanks.
I don't care about all the official nonsense. You are the Queen.
You sweet talker.
Well, let's get talking about bonfire night, because you know what? I'm going to have to start with a silly story for you. I think you might like this one, because I love bonfire night. I always celebrate it. Got some cheeky fireworks. First of all, right, my partner Steph, this was just ridiculous. So we went to the shop to choose some fireworks, and she asked the chap behind the till, right, oh, so how much damage do these ones do? But she asked it in a way that suggested that we wanted the ones that cause the maximum amount of damage. So the guy was really confused. He said, what, you want to cause damage? Well, you want these ones then? He got out these massive ones, so that was annoying to start with.
Oh, my, no. See, I'm more of like, I go to an actual bonfire night where there's people who like have special gloves and stuff for the fireworks. I'm not really one for like doing my own fireworks.
Well,
yeah.
I decided to do a little a live stream actually. For this is actually evidence of why I won't be doing this again. I will go to a proper. I usually do go to a proper display, but yeah, this time I thought, you know what, I'm going to make my own display. It didn't go well. I decided to live stream it for my parents at home, right? And my dad's trademark line whenever I do something like that is Jesus Christ. He loves saying that. And he saw
my
this.
dad says that.
Really?
He has on a bike at the end.
Yeah, you know that.
Jesus Christ on a bike.
I'll have to tell him that. You might have to add that.
You can use that one.
Yeah, he loves it. He loves it.
Have that for free.
But he just saw this firework going, and we've got honestly the smallest garden you can imagine. You can basically stand in it, and that's about it. You can't really sit in it either. But I decided to set off this rocket, and he was going, Jesus Christ! It was a great display. But I think I might go to a proper one this time because, we're raving about them today, aren't we?
Yeah. Do you know what you should do, Ben?
What's that?
Go to the Richmond Foods Facebook page and comment on my video, and maybe your whole community could win a very, very good firework night.
You know what I'm going to do as well? If I write Jesus Christ on a bike, do you think we'll be in a bigger chance to get it?
I mean, I don't know. I'm not actually in charge of choosing who does it. I think there is a proper panel of people that look at all the comments. You've got to get in there now, though. We've had 1,200 already.
Gosh, well, it's an awesome idea, though, isn't it? Because I mean,
yeah,
this
is what confuses me, because Richmond done this poll, and they said that 2/3 of Brits aren't celebrating bonfire night anymore, and it's upset us. But because we've already had 1,200 entries, this shows that people must love bonfire night. So we want to try and encourage people to get involved. It's really fun. I have so many fond memories as a kid when I would be on my dad's shoulders, got my new pair of gloves on, just really excited, and the music would be bouncing so loud that I actually felt like my heart was going to come out of my chest. But I love memories like that. Getting tomato sauce off my hot dog all over my dad's head.
Toffee apples as well.
Oh, I love toffee apples.
Oh, they're so good, aren't they? I hardly ever have them, but yeah, I mean, that just conjures immediately images of being a kid and just being at firework displays. Toffee apples.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Oh, I love stuff like that. When we did the poll, actually, toffee apples were up there, but in the southwest, your favourite food to eat at bonfire night celebrations, actually a hot dog.
Oh, thank God. I thought you were going to say pasties, and I thought, oh, no, please, no. Please not pasties.
It's definitely hot dogs. It does differ, though. In Yorkshire, they like jacket tatties.
Okay, yeah, fair dues.
I feel like that would be really hard to watch a firework display. I was trying to cut into a jacket potato, though, but each to their own.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I mean, a hot dog's just easy, right? I mean, that's surely why, you eat it whilst you're watching, surely.
Yeah, you don't have to concentrate when you're eating it.
You don't want a banquet or something that involves careful cutting, do you?
No. And so at this big event that we're doing, I'm keeping my diary free in case I get invited because it sounds amazing. I have music and stuff as well. So Ben, what would your ideal fireworks song be?
That's a good question. I think you're going to hate this, but I think I would go for some kind of raucously loud ballad by Michael Bolton or something.
Oh, I love that. I thought you were going to just say Katy Perry's Firework.
No, well, that's too obvious, I think.
Yeah, you need something like that builds up like a big crescendo. You know, it's like you want to cry when you're watching the fireworks. I love music like that.
Yeah, that's it. I went to. Actually, I was thinking back. Actually, we went to quite a nice firework one down at. I don't know if you know the area at all, but we're near Falmouth, and there's this lovely place called the Helford River nearby. It really is scenic. It's got Frenchman's Creek there. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Oh,
it's from the
that's
Daffy.
very pretty though.
Yeah, no, it's lovely, lovely. And they did this just a pub put on this small display down by the Helford River, and that was really cool. You know, just because the fireworks were kind of going off over the river, and you just thought, oh, this is the kind of ideal setting. So I think my perfect one would involve a nice setting like that as well, just so you got everything.
I told you, get yourself on to the Richmond Foods Facebook page. It's not going to happen if you don't comment, Ben.
No, I better get on there.
Community, you've got to do this. You owe them.
Scarlett, the thing is, I'm afraid I'm going to have to return that question to you. What would your song be?
Oh, well, actually, on reflection now, I feel like I would want... What's that one where Michael Bublé and it goes dun, 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 diddle-dun, that one?
Oh, yeah, you've got to love Bublé, haven't you? Yeah.
Imagine fireworks, that dun, 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 pow, pow. Like, that would be amazing, wouldn't it? I'm just imagining it now.
Shall I get some Bublé on the show for you, Scarlett, in honour of your appearance?
Oh, yeah, can you please get everyone involved in the bonfire celebration?
Yeah, for sure. I could even add some firework noises over the top so people really...
Yes, thank you. That would be appreciated.
Fantastic. Well, I will do. So, yeah, basically, I mean, this is a great idea, basically. Just send people to the Richmond page, get commenting, and hopefully get winning this, this awesome event.
Oh, thank you, Ben.
Well, thanks, Scarlett. Thanks very much. I'll let you go, but yeah, great. Well, thanks. See you, Scarlett. Bye now.
Bye.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Scarlett. Absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Now, I don't know if you're going to be annoyed with this one. Do you mind? Okay, I know. I promised Bublé. This is close to Bublé. It's Michael Bolton. Is that all right? I tell you what, I'll get some Bublé on as well, but I just thought, you know what, I'm going to have to get this bad boy on. Talking about power ballads. I can do the firework noises too if you want.
I don't know what it is that makes me feel like this. I don't know who you are, but Source FM, you all are superstars.
Thursday breakfast on Source FM.
Coming up next on the show then, and I hope you're going to be excited about this one. I was delighted to have our very special guest so far, but more special guests are to come. Now, I'm also going to reveal this for you now. So if you're not already excited, then you will be, because shall I tell you who else is joining us today? That is our very own resident professor, Prof. Dave Hoskin. Dave is joining us today. We're going to be talking a bit of science. This is, well, no biggie, okay? Basically, one of you lovely listeners sent us in a question a while back, basically asking, could you ask the profs to define life? What is life? I thought, you know what, that's a pretty good one. No biggie, right? Kind of sounds like, yeah, okay, well, go on then, Dave, what is it? So we do delve into a bit of philosophy as well, and we also touch on the origin of life. What do we understand about the origin of life, if indeed anything? Dave will reveal all very, very shortly, but first I would love to invite to the show now Professor Nick Reed, and he's the head of mobility research at Bosch. And Daniel Ruiz is with Prof. Nick today talking about autonomous vehicles, which is pretty awesome. So essentially they're talking about the latest technology that's in this area. So the correct term for this area, actually, if you might come across this, is the connected and autonomous vehicle sector. So essentially, if you've heard anything about this at all, self-driving cars, okay? Ever heard anything about that technology? Well, they're here to tell us what it's like. What is the state of the technology? How are Brits feeling about this technology? Well, all will be revealed right away. They do have a song request as well, so don't you worry. Let's get them straight on.
My name is Nick Reed. I'm the head of mobility R&D at Bosch.
And my name is Daniel Ruiz, and I'm the chief executive of Meridian, which is the hub for the development of connected and autonomous vehicles in the UK.
Fantastic. Thank you. Well, a very warm welcome to you, gents. Absolute pleasure to have you on the show today. Now, I think this is an absolute fascinating technology, and as this research that I've got in front of me actually reveals, and, I must admit to falling right into this category, actually, but an awful lot of people don't really understand the technology of self-driving vehicles, autonomous vehicles at all. I wonder if, first of all, if you wouldn't mind, could we just start at the very basics and talk about what we're actually talking about here in terms of what actually this technology is?
Sure. So at Bosch, we're developing this technology. We're creating the systems that will lead to automated vehicles. And that's why we conducted this research to understand how the public felt about them. Because you're right, I don't think people necessarily understand well the future of automated driving. So we're talking about systems that go from those that give you assistance, things like automated emergency braking, things like lane keeping assist. And as you go into more and more depth of the technology, we get to higher levels of automation until the point ultimately where you don't need to do anything to complete an A to B journey. The car will do all the driving for you. Now that's some way away, but there's lots of benefits that we can gain in the meantime through the introduction of these intermediate technologies.
And I suppose the first thing that might spring to people's mind, of course, is avoiding things like collisions, of course.
That's right. So safety is one of the primary reasons for developing the technology and seeing how we can roll it out into the public domain.
Let's kind of talk a little bit more about this research that you've done, if you don't mind, because of course you are finding, aren't you, that there is a bit of scepticism out there about automated vehicles. Did you kind of expect to see that? Did you have clear ideas about you think you would see that anyway, or were you kind of, a bit confused about why so many people have this scepticism?
I think we recognise with the introduction of any new technology, there is likely to be scepticism. And as developers of that technology at Bosch, we need to understand what that is and why people might have these concerns. But I think what also came through in the research is that there is a lack of understanding as well. And that's why I think it's really important that we have an education campaign between government and industry to give it that credibility, to help people understand what the technology is, what benefits it could have, and the likely introduction. How is it likely to emerge over the years to come?
Fantastic.
And I'd like to build on that, because I think what's important is Meridian's role is to make sure we can make the most of these technologies so we achieve social and economic benefit for the UK. But the only way we're going to do that is if we can develop safely and ensure that at the same time we are building up a degree of acceptability and accessibility. Because if people don't accept the technology, then however good it is, it will not be adopted.
Yes. And for those people who are kind of, in doubts about the technology and thinking, because I noticed here that you actually picked up, a lot of people thinking essentially, well, it's one of these kind of things that won't really start up properly, if you like. But actually, just looking at at these figures alone, I mean, these kind of speak volumes to me. I mean, looking at what what the sector's predicted to be worth, it's over 900 billion, isn't it, by 2035? So clearly, we're not talking about some fad or something. This really is an emerging technology that really should be taken seriously.
That's right. This is where the economic benefit to the UK comes in. If we don't pursue this and work on it ourselves and create a development environment which is, again, safe but as comprehensive as possible, then we will miss out on that, and we'll end up being subservient to other countries who provide us with the technology, the systems, the services that we fundamentally have to use, because we need to address the safety issues, the fact that 74 people are killed on or seriously injured on roads in Great Britain every day, and that's primarily a human error effect. Those statistics will not be addressed,
yes.
Unless we adopt the technology, and we can only do it to our own benefit if we do it ourselves.
So leading back into, I think that leads quite nicely back into thinking about, the potential benefits of embracing this technology and basically in continuing to improve it and roll it out. But of course, the number one thing that, what you were saying there, and of course that probably does come to people's minds already, is removing that human error part, things like, lack of attention and things like this, those split-second human things that happen that allow collisions to occur. And I'm just thinking about other benefits. And I know another one could be things like congestion, right? Because, of course, if you've got these vehicles which are able to communicate with one another and, assess, essentially, the space that they have, I suppose that immediately helps things like congestion too, as well.
Yeah, for sure. It means that the space on our roads can be used more efficiently. It also means the occupants in that vehicle can use their time You know, you can watch a movie, you can do work, you can relax. So that is a potential benefit as these systems become more sophisticated. I also think there's a benefit as well around active travel. So as people might feel more comfortable to walk and cycle on their journeys if they are surrounded by vehicles that are automated and know that they will definitely recognise them and behave in a safe manner.
Yes, that's a very good point. And I suppose as well, of course, constantly becoming more and more important, isn't it, that we're aware of our impacts on the environment and things, and obviously green energy and things are massive news at the moment, quite rightly. And I suppose anything that increases efficiency is bound to help in that arena too.
Yeah, and these vehicles will drive in ways that are more efficient than human drivers. I've done a lot of research into how we can improve efficiency in our driving, and it's often the human that is the biggest factor. So that we accelerate and brake in a jerky manner, typically, that can all be smoothed out, increasing the efficiency of travel.
Just reminded me, have you seen? It's a bit daft, but have you seen the Top Gear episode where they basically make fun of Peugeot drivers, and basically he's sitting on the clutch the whole way. It's going kind of. That's what you just made me think of. Then people doing that, you can remove people sitting on the clutch and the accelerator wrongly.
I think that speaks exactly to the point made earlier about human error. Yes. So a lot of these little mistakes, some of them not safety critical, but some of them absolutely safety critical, can be addressed by automation.
And I suspect that the Peugeot driver is the kind of person that doesn't really want to be wasting time driving. They far prefer to be doing something that is productive, listening to the radio, watching television, reading a book.
Of course, or learning the guitar or something like that even.
Peugeot drivers do tend to play guitars.
Yes.
Definitely. Yeah.
That's surely something that came out in the research as well, right?
Quite probably. But on a more serious point, I think that you commented about scepticism at the beginning. I think it is important to recognise that there will be, and there should be, scepticism at this stage, because scepticism will drive a safer, more rigorous approach to development, and education is a part of that. And I think that what came out of the Bosch report was that there should be more education. Communication of all kinds is educational. We need people to understand not just how the technology is being deployed when we get to full automation, but also the changing state now, because we don't want to be in a position where people get into different cars which have different levels of automation, safety assist, adaptive cruise control, lane assist, and things like that, and misuse them. So there is a lot of education, and that means that there is a responsibility not just on automotive manufacturers, on industry, and on government, but on the media as well, to make sure that we are all communicating a similar story.
Fantastic. So it sounds like a major message to take away for listeners today really is just this is something to be, aware of, to perhaps read up on, know about, and essentially just watch out for and be interested in where it goes. And as you say, with that element of, thinking, okay, let's make sure we understand this, essentially.
That's right, I think. And by doing that, by educating ourselves, we can appreciate what the benefits will be and enjoy what comes. I think Daniel and I are both very excited about this future of automated driving and the benefits that we think will be achieved. And I think others will share that as they learn more.
Fantastic. And you know what, chaps, I'm just thinking as well, and this might sound, another bit of a daft comment from me, but just thinking about, whenever you watch a sci-fi film, right, it's always cars kind of driving themselves, especially the kind of older sci-fi films. And it must be quite amazing to work in an area where actually you really are looking at building exactly that, essentially, these efficient vehicles that don't require human drivers. And I just think it must be quite amazing to work in that field and actually really, really be working towards that.
I'll tell you what's massively exciting, and that is the fact that the UK is at the forefront of this technology, this revolution. Meridian and Bosch, as one of the primary technology leaders in this space, are driving it forward in the UK. And I think we should all be excited about the fact that we're part of that and will remain at the forefront if we continue to invest our time and effort in it.
And in the midst of that excitement, we need to recognise that the people need to come on this journey as well. So that massively reinforces the need for this education campaign about the benefits, about the technologies and when they'll come and how we can enjoy them.
Fantastic. Well, I'll just ask you chaps as well, because I'd really like to just point listeners really in the direction of a bit more information. Of course, it sounds like one of your main messages today really is that, the importance of education. So perhaps we could get people, reading up a little bit about this.
if people want to learn more, they can do so on our website, which is bosch.co.uk/automated-driving.
Fantastic. Now, chaps, I would love to give you a little song request, actually, for your appearance today. I know this is, a lot of daft thing for me today. I do apologise for that, but I'd just love to give you a song request, and please don't tell me it's going to be High Voltage for your appearance. Do you know the song I mean? Danger, High Voltage.
It's not going to be that.
No, I didn't
You're
think
right.
it would be. Okay, that's right. What can I get you? Anything at all? Your favourite songs?
Well, how about I Like Driving in My Car by Madness?
Oh, you know what? Perfect, yeah. I knew you'd have something, Nick. Fantastic. Well, thank you. Well, thank you very much, gents. I just want to double-check, actually, that, really just give you the chance to either reiterate any major points that you wanted to, or indeed, basically, get anything in that you would like to.
I'm going to say follow what Bosch are doing and what Meridian are doing on the self-driving agenda, and support us because it's a UK initiative.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much, chaps. In that case, I will let you go, but thanks for chatting to us on Source today. See you both.
Many thanks.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Well, thank you again to Professor Nick Reed, the Head of Mobility Research and Development at Bosch, and Daniel Ruiz, the Chief Exec of Meridian. But for now, gonna have to play the requests, aren't I?
Good morning, Ben Hotline.
Okay, well, you know what? I'm afraid I'm going to have to play you my song now. Is that all right? I've written you a song. Hope this is okay. And, if this... Please don't tune out. Please don't, all right? Just stay with me, okay? Tell you what, I'm going to get some... What about some Mark Knopfler straight after this? Maybe just a cheeky Mark Knopfler song. Bit of Dire Straits. And then we shall move into our final section for this morning, and that is with Professor Dave Hoskin. Dave is chatting about life. He's answering the question, a question sent in by one of our fantastic listeners. What is life? He's going to try and define life, and he's going to talk as well about what we understand about the origin of life from a biological perspective. This discussion is the first part of a cheeky little mini-series, so we'll be talking about this at a later date as well, so do stay with us if this interests you. Dave is back as well next week, but for now, as I said, I'm going to play you this song, and then we shall move on. Well, I would say enjoy, but you probably won't, so I'll just put it on, shall I?
Take it slow, and I pick themselves up by the coast, and I'll never forget that night she raised me up. Oh, she made me mine when I was
We are in this studio being thoroughly bounced.
Okay, coming up next then, it is time to introduce to the show once again. Welcome back, Professor Dave Hoskin. Now today, as I said, Dave is talking about life. He's attempting to answer the question, what is life? He's also going to talk a little bit about what we understand about the origin of life. This is the first part in a multi-part discussion, so there will be more on this topic later. If you have a question that I can put to the profs for you, please get it to me any way that you can. You can find my details on the Thursday Breakfast Show page on the Source FM website. You can email me at bam206@exeter.ac.uk. That's BAMM for Makin at 206@exeter.ac.uk. So get it to me, all right? But for now, it's time to have Dave back. Dave, welcome.
Thursday Breakfast on Source FM.
Dave, welcome back again to the show. Delighted that you're with us still, actually.
Pleasure to be here.
Surprised you haven't run away yet.
It's always good to be here. I know, I enjoy it. I really enjoy it, and I think it's important, actually.
Fantastic. Well, we're delighted to have you on board anyway.
Good man.
So I suppose this week's question, is a really interesting, quite a broad one, and this is again adapted from a question that a listener sent in. And this really is, let's just start with the question itself, I suppose, and that is very simply, what is life? So how is life different to, what people might imagine to be standard chemistry? If you imagine this imaginary line between, chemistry and biochemistry, what is life? What makes it different?
Yeah, it's a really hard question in some senses because it's so variable. So I think you've got to think about the common properties that all life shares, and I guess the defining or largely defining is things that are alive replicate themselves. They make copies of themselves, and those copies look more like them than they do of other things. And so if you think in purely chemical terms, if methane could make methane, then methane's just methane, right? But a chimpanzee making a chimpanzee makes a slightly different chimpanzee from other chimpanzee. So there's something about replicating, making copies of yourself, and it's also without perfect fidelity. Now, that might be an emergent property of life. That might be something that is a consequence of the cost of making perfect copies. But making perfect copies, or making copies of yourself, I would say, is probably the closest to an answer. Ayers rocks don't make Ayers rocks. Pebbles don't make pebbles that look like them. So I would say you could define it in those terms. You could define it in terms of information. So you're saying life is the transmission of information across time. In most systems, we see information decay, and so the universe will, we think, end in a cold death because entropy is increasing everywhere. Living systems don't see that same entropy decline. So, I said it's replication fidelity. You could also think about it as information fidelity and the transfer of information over time. And I think either of those things works, and I think either of those things works even for something like a virus, which for a lot of time can be sitting in a sort of suspended state doing nothing, and it's not until it can invade another biological organism that it can start to replicate, but it is replicating then, right? And so viruses are kind of interesting because for a lot of the time they're sitting somewhere between what we might think of as classic life, where it's always sort of metabolically active. But on the other side, seeds do the same thing, right? Seeds effectively sit dormant, and as long as you keep water off them, they can sit dormant for hundreds of years. You add a bit of water, ting, Same with things like water bears, tardigrades. They can be desiccated into what looks like dust. Just add water and away they go again. So it's that replication or the transmission of information that I think would be the defining. And we often have Sasha Dahl along here to discuss these sorts of questions. It'd be really worth revisiting that with him, because he and I often argue about stuff, so it's quite interesting. But if I had to pin my pin my flag against something, I think that those would be the two kind of definitions, and you can see how they're related, right? You can't replicate stuff without transmitting the information that is this stuff. So they're kind of the same answer given in slightly different ways.
Fantastic. Well, I think this is, even if we use this as a kind of fantastic intro to people start thinking about this. Yeah. Think a bit, take the week to think a bit closely about this, talking about our listeners, and then we can return and have a full-blown debate about this. But I think this, obviously, is a really, really interesting one. I think. Yeah. But I think it's certainly a fascinating way to think about it. I think your information side to that, I think that's perhaps particularly one that people might not have really considered before, which I think is an interesting one to start thinking about. Yeah, I mean that's all DNA is information, right? Sure. And we are information. We spend all of our life sucking in information to what's the word I'm after? To sort of adjust how we move through the world, and organisms do that. And you can't. I don't think you can think of an organism that would not. There's always an evolutionary advantage, it feels like, to knowing stuff, to gathering information. Of course, there might be some optimal amount, right? And there's some diminishing returns on how much information you get. But yeah, replication of information, replication of phenotype, replication of self. They're kind of the definers, I would say. And, as I said, I don't know, rocks don't make rocks that look like them, that become them. The rocks get ground down into dust with the fullness of time. But the same's not true of life. And I think that's how we would define life wherever we went in the universe, would be the things that make copies of themselves, things that transmit information from one state to another state. That feels to me like would be a good starting point for defining life, however it looks and wherever we find it. Fantastic. I think, understandably, a lot of people have a lot of difficulty imagining the start of this process, the kind of origin of argument. I'm not suggesting, obviously, that we understand this in its entirety, but I think we're not bad. We're pretty close, yeah. So, if you imagine the conditions required for evolution are resource shortages, so competition, and then you imagine that things that can use resources more efficiently, where efficiency can be defined in a number of ways, but it can be in making more copies of yourself, right? So if you have any self-replicating molecule competing with other self-replicating molecules for limited resource, you've sort of got the starting point, right? We know that all sorts of natural hydrocarbon-y type things exist, and I don't think it's, I can at least imagine how it's possible. And Dawkins makes a really nice argument for those people that can't. Oh, it's too big a problem. We'll halve the problem and see if that's too big. And if that's still too big, halve it again, and halve it again, and halve it again, until you get down to tiny little bite-sized chunks. And there's, John Maynard Smith and Eros
Samathi, I think I've mispronounced the guy's last name, and I'm sorry for that. They have a wonderful book called Major Transitions in Evolution, where they start to talk about these big things like how did it start? Where did language come from? Where's consciousness? And they touch on all these things, major transitions in evolution. And the fact that we can even have the discussion means we're bloody close, right? And we might not have all the detail, and we might never have all the detail, because it may well have been a unique event in the evolution, in the history of this planet. And of course we can't go and see what happens on other planets, they're a bit too far away. So we might never get the precise detail, but the fact that we can contemplate and come up with ideas that are feasible, with ideas that don't defy natural laws, means we're doing pretty darn well. We're certainly doing better than our ancestors did. And the fact that we can come up with solutions to the deepest problems that don't require magic is, for me, very gratifying.
I think that last point you made there was kind of coming on to a point that I really wanted to, mention towards the end, and that really was, I just think it's fascinating that, and it just shows you its importance, for even any layperson listening in, and that really is, you can't delve into questions like this, and this goes for anything we've really chatted about on the radio. We always invariably will end up, of course, talking about evolution, and I think this shows you why so many biologists are fascinated with evolution. That's why there are so many evolutionary biologists to me, because you can't delve into those deep questions, I don't think, without evolution.
Yeah, I guess it depends on, if you accept some premises, that's absolutely true, and the fundamental premises on which we base all of our science and all of our understanding is that the universe is understandable, and we have the tools to decipher. You have to take that as a given, and once you've taken that as a given, then you can look at what we've been able to do based on those assumptions. And we've been able to do a lot. When my grandmother was born, there weren't aeroplanes. The idea that there were antibiotics to stop kiddies dying just was that's why people had large numbers of children, because large numbers of them would die from things today that we just, you'd be horrified if your child died of German measles. Although, of course, some of these things are coming back. Or polio maybe is a better example. And it's because this method that we've come across is such a powerful method. And if the worth of something is seen in its ability to solve real-world problems, then the sort of proof's in the pudding. For more existential crises, you might have to look elsewhere. But I personally find our philosophy of stuff to be more gratifying than magic. So knowing how reality, knowing what reality is and how it works to the very, 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 very best of our knowledge, I find far more gratifying, far more rewarding, far more even supportive than relying on magic. And especially on the sorts of magic that lots of the religions that we consider rely upon. But that's me.
So I'm assuming then your song choice for today's show is going to be the Harry Potter theme tune.
No, I don't think I'll do that.
Did you get another one, of course?
Yeah, no, I
one.
know. Gosh, that's really hard now. Do you know what? Devo, Beautiful World.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think that's very fitting, actually.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
In the context of everything we've talked about. And for those of you that haven't seen the film clip, check out the film clip because it's fantastic. The lyrics, the mismatch between the lyrics and the images they show in the background of the film clip are wonderful.
Fantastic. We'll get that on.
Brilliant. Yeah,
well, Jay, thank you very much. We'll see you again very soon.
Good on you, Ben.
Well, that's it. It has come to the end of another Thursday breakfast show. I'm sorry, gonna have to love you and leave you. I just want to say a massive thanks to all of our very special guests today. Thank you to Kate Garraway. Thanks to Dr. Sarah Jarvis. Thank you to Professor Nick Reed. Thanks to Daniel Ruiz. Thanks to Scarlett Moffatt. Queen of the Jungle. Amazing. And thank you, of course, to Dave Hoskin, who joined us again this week and who will be joining us again next week. The biggest thank you of them all, as always, though, is to you. Thanks for joining here. Thanks for being here. Please do catch me again next Thursday from 7:30 until 9 o'clock here on The Source. But do stay tuned to The Source today, too. Coming up next is the Morning Break Show, a repeat for the Morning Break Show. Up after that is Steve Foster on the radio, followed by Carl Coleman. And later today, you can look forward to Inside Local Music with Simon Neild, and as well, shows throughout the evening. So do stay with us on Source. We're gonna look after you. We're gonna look after you really well today. Promise you, okay? Okay, well, that's me done. I'm sorry to leave you, but thank you, and goodbye, and good morning.